Factual, but not truthful. American citizens weren't deported. That's just not true. Due process was given to all of these people.
First of all, where did this guy come from? No, with all due respect, this is an idiotic thing to do. And it's proving that the Democrat Party has no play. He's trying to concentrate on something to make people all of a sudden know who he is so that he can raise money and run for re-election. I find it despicable. Good luck. Good luck getting re-elected.
Look, our cars are going to go up. Domestic cars are going to be more expensive. Foreign cars are going to be more expensive. People won't be able to afford buy a car.
Well, first of all, the propaganda is getting tiresome. Trump has done a brilliant job. You can't find one thing to criticize him over. And, and Joe Biden had destroyed the economy. It was record low unemployment. You and I are not in a position to lecture people on how to get elected, okay? You haven't won a lot of elections, neither have I, okay? So at least I've helped.
We're not deported. Their mothers were deported, and because their mothers are not sociopaths, they chose to take their children with them rather than calling up and finding someone. This congressman seems to think that having bad polling numbers is an impeachable offense, is somehow a high crime and misdemeanor.
Does this rise to the level of impeachment? No. I think you're doing this largely because you want to get your name out there, because the Democrats have no front runner. No one knows who's in charge of the party. So everyone's clawing to the top of the crabs in a barrel to try and be the pick me for 2028.
Democrats literally sharing Chinese propaganda because it's against Trump. They have chosen China over their own working class voters. And Congressman, I'm sorry, but the UAW and the Teamsters have both endorsed the tariffs.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, got another Piers Morgan debate coming in, and as you guys can see from that intro, this one gets kind of fiery. Tim Pool comes in and just destroys this congressman. Of course, Kerry Lake also helps with destroying this congressman. This congressman, he's just outright blatantly insane, if you ask me, trying to go in and impeach Donald Trump for polling numbers, for, oh, he's unpopular, oh, he's taking these illegal actions, oh, it's unconstitutional. You gotta love it, folks, but we'll get into all that. But before we do, I need y'all to do me a favor and smash that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new around here. My regular videos, we cover news, we read the news, we go through the manipulations because you are being manipulated by the corporate press. That is a fact. That is an outright fact. So check out my regular videos. They're enlightening, to say the least, informative at best. So y'all check those out. Share this video anywhere and everywhere you can. But without any further ado, let's jump into it, y'all.
Welcome to Uncensored. You're laughing, I suspect, not in a way that indicates fulsome support for what Ms. Lake was just saying.
No, not fulsome support at all. All right, so first, usually, obviously we're always fair, right? So in the beginning, he comes out and he closed the border, and that's really popular. That's what people elected him for. He does a lot of executive orders. Now, a lot of those in the beginning, very beginning, I disagreed with instantly, but some of the later ones were more disastrous, but it looked like there was action being taken. So, and it showed in his polls. He'd already won the popular vote, and then he added to that lead in his polling, and that's back when, of course, Republicans believed in polling, when he was above 50% and popular, et cetera. And then what did he do? He pulled a Trump. He can't help himself. He loves, has authoritarian tendencies, to put it mildly. He loves testing the limits of what he could do. He started talking about third term, started saying we're not doing due process, we're not listening to the courts, et cetera. And now he's lost people on all sides, the wild, outrageous tariffs. And, obviously, Batya and Kerry and I had a debate about that, and I was right and they were wrong. And so I'm curious to see if they'll admit that now, because I said, of course, Trump will pull back the global tariffs. They were nuclear and ridiculous. And he pulled them back, 2 days after we had that debate? So now he's made a giant mess of it. I mean, everyone from Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Patrick Bet-David, Dave Portnoy, Joe Rogan, and yesterday Alex Jones, all saying, what's going on here? Even they didn't sign up for violating the Constitution and due process and all of that, let alone the trillions of dollars he's bled out of the market by having no idea how to handle things economically. So he started out strong in the beginning for a couple of days, and then the rest has now just been a total debacle and disaster. And Piers, I'm always amused by both sides, and you've seen me call out both sides live as it's happening when the Democrats were like, oh, Joe Biden's polling's in the 30s, but I bet it bounces back to the 60s, or polling doesn't matter. Whenever they're down, always polling doesn't matter or polling is fake. And now when Trump is in the 39, 40% range, all of a sudden, here's Kari Lake telling us that polling doesn't matter or it isn't real. It's real. It's not perfect, but it's real. Trump is badly, badly hurt. I mean, geez, one last fact. 52% in a recent poll of Americans said that he was a, quote, a dangerous dictator looking to take away American democracy, including 56% of independents and a shockingly high 17% of Republicans think he's a dangerous dictator. You really can't handle it any worse than that.
I love how Cenk tries to come in and lull you into this sense that he's on your side by saying, oh, well, Trump comes out, he does some good things, by saying, you know, Trump is good, but then he goes on to do all this nonsense, blah, blah, blah. Trump is evil, Trump is bad, Trump is blah, 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 he's whatever. I just love this. And that poll that he was talking about, you know, you got to wonder, did the polling place actually ask if he's some fascistic dictator? Because that doesn't sound like a question that would be on a poll. And this is the problem with some of the polling, right? I don't believe any of the polling, even when Donald Trump is in a good place, right? What you got to do is look at a single individual poll over time, right? You could take all of these polls, look at individual polls, the same poll, right? When they do these, oh, is he a fascistic dictator? That's just a nonsense fluff poll, but they're trying to manipulate you folks. That's what they're trying to do with those polls. But you got to look at a single poll, like, you know, presidential popularity or whatever, you know, his approval rating over time and see where he's at, right? And they go up and down, of course. That's how it's going to be. But, you know, the polling is, a lot of these polls are meant to put this thought into your head, oh, but this person is bad, or this person is not so bad, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, the methodology in some of these polls are just outright garbage for some of them. There are some good polling places. These are the polls we trust. Rasmussen is one of these polling places. I think RGB is another one. There's several out there. I'm not going to go through all of them, but, you know, we do get bad polls. Just outright, even from some of the good polling places, right? We get bad polls. That's just how it is. But I don't think the polls are necessarily representative of the country in its entirety, but they do show you at least kind of where we're at. They give you a general idea of what's going on. Now, what I find fascinating is, you know, the corporate press, they come out with all these polls. Oh, Donald Trump's popularity is tanking. But then you go to look at the aggregate and it hasn't changed all that much. Like Rasmussen actually has Donald Trump up a little bit as of recent polls. He did go down a little bit, but then he popped right back up. What is going on in this country? A lot of people are scared about the tariffs. Rightly so, right? A lot of people are scared about the tariffs. I'm scared about the tariffs. But what I don't like is when the corporate press and these people come out and lie about the tariffs. That makes things worse. Of course, that's going to make the polling go down, especially if people buy into the corporate press narrative. Donald Trump is evil, and Democrats, yeah, they're not so much evil. That's just not telling everybody the whole truth, right? Because they come out and say, oh, well, the tariffs is a tax on you. It's just taxing you, and they constantly bludgeon you over the head with that information, while leaving out other information that, well, this is also what tariffs do. You know, they also do this, 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 and this. They don't ever tell you those things. And that's a problem. That is a major problem, because when you have fact bringers bringing you just a certain segment of those facts, we have a problem with that. That's manipulative. So, and they do it on purpose. So they're trying to portray a narrative. And that shouldn't be. You know, it shouldn't be like that in this country with our media, our corporate media outlets trying to portray a narrative, trying to overlay their agenda on top of reality. Yeah, sorry. That's just not a good thing. And this is why trust in those places is in the gutter. But let's keep going.
And he joins me now. Welcome to you, Congressman.
Thank you.
So you're going hard on Trump. You're citing sweeping abuse of power, flagrant violations of the Constitution, acts of tyranny that undermine American democracy and threaten the rule of law. Out of interest, what has Trump done that has massively surprised you, or that most of his diehard supporters didn't vote for?
Well, look, the tariffs, this is Congress's prerogative. he took that over illegally, unconstitutionally, and made a mess of it. And that lost stock values, people's 401k value got lost. He made a mess of it, and he tried to bully China. That didn't work. And right now, prices of everything are going up. He got elected because people thought he was best in handling the economy. It turned out that he made a mess of it. Prices have gone up. Now he's trying to tell Amazon, don't tell people that a tariff addition to the prices. He has trampled freedom of first right, freedom. Supreme Court 9-0 decision to bring Garcia back because he did not get the due process. Trump said he ignored that ruling. He just said yesterday that he's able to bring him back, but he will not bring him back. So he's defying Supreme Court. And that was the last straw for me. And that's why I introduced the articles of impeachment to impeach. This president must go. He has done unconstitutional act, illegal act, and this cannot stand.
Okay, so there's a little bit more to that clip, but I'm going to interject right quick because none of those things are impeachable offenses, as a matter of fact. He's lying about the tariffs, he's lying about Abrego Garcia, and everything else is just opinion on how they feel, right? Like constitutionality, this is the strange thing about saying this is unconstitutional. That's up to interpretation, as a matter of fact. And as a matter of fact, all of this is going through the courts, so it will be interpreted as such. But none of these things, absolutely none of them, are impeachable. They're not high crimes. They're not misdemeanors. None of those things. Let's keep going.
I mean, again, I'd simply say, what do you think that he's doing that his supporters didn't expect him to do? He said, I'm going to sort the southern border out, which he indisputably has done. I'm going to get very, very tough on deportations of illegal immigrants. And all right, there are one or two cases which have got the headlines, which are certainly, in my estimation, worth examining on a due process question. But the majority of people have been deported. There seems to be no question mark over. He's challenging court power in a number of areas, but has said ultimately he will abide by the will of the courts. None of this strikes me particularly, at the moment, the behaviour of a dictator who's just decided none of these rules count for me.
Well, look at all the polls. There are several polls that came out last week, and he's underwater in almost every category, including economy, that is supposed to be his best category. And his own supporters are now, having buyer's remorse that they made a mistake, that he hasn't worked on the economy that like he said he's going to do. Instead, he's talking about Greenland and making Canada 51st state and then military action against Mexico. None of this his supporters expected him to do. They expected him to fix the economy because that's what they thought. And he said that's what he's going to do.
Out of interest, and look, I mean, this tariff war is still in a very early stage. You say that he hasn't succeeded in bullying China, as you put it, but how do you know it won't succeed over time? Trump Trump has launched a radical tariff war, no other word for it. What happens if in, say, 6 months' time, it turns out that most of the countries that the United States has trade deals with have renegotiated in America's favor, and including China? Now, in that eventuality, if the economy is doing well again, would you admit then that you were a little too hasty? In other words, should this be allowed to be given time to see if it works?
Well, look, we have seen the flip-flops. One day the tariffs are on. The very next day, he takes them off. He first acts tough on China, then he says he's going to be nice to China. It's about how he wakes up in the morning and whatever, he thinks about. There is no plan. There is no, plan or strategy here. It's just Trump, whatever he thinks he is. He has got a defense secretary who can't keep any secrets, sharing sensitive information on Signal chat. This is, he has got a Health and Human Services Secretary that is making, horrible medical decisions. He's got a staff that is not, he's got a cabinet that's not competent. And he's just,
Do you agree? Do you agree that he has stemmed the issue at the southern border by 95%? That the number of people coming in illegally on that border has reduced by 95%. Do you accept that? And do you think that's been a good thing, a successful story?
There has been some progress on protecting the borders. He's put the military on the border. But we are also seeing American citizens being deported. 2-year-old young Americans, children have been deported. People, American citizens, children with cancer have been deported without due process. So it goes both ways. While some accomplishments have been done at the border, he's also, not given the due process to many of the immigrants.
Okay, so let me get this straight. Donald Trump is being impeached over polling numbers, over your feelings about tariffs and if they will or will not work, and lies. That's right, lies. Talking about American citizens are being deported. Now, this is a bit nuanced because technically, yes, they are being deported. But, once again, like he said, that's 2-year-old children here, 2, 3, and 7, I believe. This is a single case where the parents are getting deported, and they said, we want to bring our children who are American citizens with us. Where's the problem? Now, he said there was no due process. That was the due process. Hang on, okay, CIS interview, you're getting deported. Do you want to bring your kids with you? They said yes. Case closed, goodbye. Good night. Time is over. You're gone. Right? This is nuts. I just talked about this yesterday where you have the New York Times. I'll throw the headlines up right here. You have the New York Times got this story about a 2-year-old abandoned by their parents in the United States because of Donald Trump. And then you have this. 2-year-old gets deported because of Donald Trump. So in one case, the parents get deported and the child stays here. The parents abandon their child. Donald Trump bad. In another case, the parent says, no, I'm taking my kids with me. Once again, citizens get deported. Donald Trump is bad. So in what world does that make any sense at all? Right? This is what Democrats want. They don't want these deportations at all, even though the vast majority of Americans voted for mass deportations. And he says somewhere in there that, Donald Trump's number one thing was the economy. No, as a matter of fact, that wasn't. That is not true. That's another lie portrayed by Democrats. The number one thing was the border and mass deportations, as a matter of fact. This guy is just making no sense. I love, we're impeaching Donald Trump because his polling numbers are bad. Are you freaking kidding me? Because his polling numbers are bad because he's unpopular with Democrats. Of course he's unpopular with Democrats. Democrats are unpopular with Democrats. Everybody's unpopular with Democrats. Like, it's just fascinating. These people just grasping at straws is what they're doing. They have absolutely nothing when they latch on to a case where an MS-13 gang member and possible human smuggler gets deported, and there was a bit of a mistake. Slight bit of a mistake, which that mistake, right, it was an administrative error because they were supposed to have an interview with a CIS agent about the situation in El Salvador, and that didn't happen. He just got deported to El Salvador, and supposedly he wasn't supposed to be deported to El Salvador. Well, that was what the CIS agent was supposed to interview him on, as to let him know and inform him, hey, look, when you had that stay on your deportation way back in 2019, the situation in El Salvador with this gang, Barro 18 or whatever, Barros, whatever it is, 18, they were still operating in El Salvador unfettered or whatever. And that has changed. So now that threat that actually kept you here is gone. So that order of stay for deportation is no longer valid. And you are being deported, my guy. regardless, right? And they want to bring the Democrats, they're raising this big uproar. The corporate press got behind this 100% about this big uproar about Abrego Garcia, which is absolute nonsense. To bring this guy back, get this, folks, get this. They want to bring this guy back to the United States to have an interview with a CIS agent for him to be shipped right back to El Salvador. That's what they want. That's the due process. I mean, in what world does this make any sense? In what world do these people think that just because you report this guy as a Maryland father accidentally, mistakenly deported, which he wasn't mistakenly deported, that is a corporate press narrative spin, right? Because he was intentionally deported on purpose. The mistake was the interview. And you know how the corporate press spins this, but in what world do they think that this guy is going to come back to the United States, get due process, which he's already had his due process, but not, once again, they didn't interview him, but what do they think? He's going to come back, get due process, and be released into the United States? There is no reality where that actually happens. Many worlds interpretation, I don't care. There is no reality in which that actually happens. Zero reality. You could go to any timeline you want to. I know, bringing up science fiction-y kind of stuff here, but you could go to any timeline. It doesn't matter. This guy does not stay in the United States. I mean, unless Kamala Harris won the election, then everybody would stay in the United States. We wouldn't have any borders, for crying out loud. The entire world would be US of A, for crying out loud. These people are ridiculous with their nonsense. Show me a crime that Donald Trump has committed. Show me some crime that's not currently tied up in litigation. Right? We'll figure out if what Donald Trump has done is unconstitutional. But until then, you can't just make stuff up and expect us to get behind your effort to deport somebody because you have Trump derangement syndrome and every single thing that Donald Trump does is bad. It's nonsense, but I've been ranting, so let's keep going.
Well, isn't this all terrible? When the way you treated Trump, many would argue, was despicable. Let me bring in Tim.
I have a favor to ask of this congressman, and excuse me, I hope Jen joins me in this. Congressman, will you file articles of impeachment against Barack Obama for the extrajudicial assassination of Abdulrahman al-Awlaki?
I was not a member of Congress then. I am now. I have seen,
and we can convict him and put him in prison if you want to file those.
I have seen the unconstitutional, illegal activities of Donald Trump. And those are the ones that I am holding him responsible for.
Nobody cared when Obama murdered American citizens, especially a 16-year-old kid who is not a target.
Obama is not the president right now. Is Donald Trump is the president. Is the people are hurting. He is the one who is grabbing power. He is the one who's taking power away from Congress. And the funds that Congress has appropriated, he is not releasing those funds. He's putting a hold on that. He's the one that illegally put Doge and a unelected, unconfirmed Elon Musk in charge of it. He's the one who threw out that reporter from AP, from White House, trampling on freedom of speech of the press.
You're right. I should get permanent access to the White House. Otherwise, my free speech is being violated. So I'm going to go to the White House right now and insist that I'm much more well-known than that reporter is. So it's a clear violation of 1A if they don't give me a pass, right?
Well, he's used his power, his position, to intimidate media. He's used that to
so is Obama. This is ridiculous. When Anwar al-Awlaki was assassinated, an extrajudicial assassination, and his 16-year-old son by Obama, the Democrats defended this and they said he should have had a better father. No one cared. Nobody cared. I know Jen cared. I know he's talked about it. I'm mad about it too. So now when you come out and you say Trump's going to be impeached because he's doing things that are unpopular, I'm personally offended.
It's not unpopular. It's illegal.
Murdered
illegal
Americans. No one did anything. And you could right now file those impeachment articles. We could get a criminal hearing and a conviction of Barack Obama for the murder of a 16-year-old. The 16-year-old Abdulrahman al-Awlaki was not a combatant. He was at a civilian restaurant in a country we are not at war with. And why won't anyone do anything about it? I'll throw a cherry on top. When Donald Trump in his first term, when he first gets elected, he ordered a commando raid in Yemen which reportedly killed a 7-year-old American girl as well. We don't have the same evidence on that one. I want that criminally investigated as well. How about you pursue those cases? But you know what? You won't, because when it comes to bloviating nonsense pertaining to the economy or what Trump may or may not be doing, no one ever goes after the war machine. No one ever tries to target the extrajudicial authorities of the executive branch and their unilateral authority to declare war. There's never been a war declared since World War II, and you're not going to do anything about it. No one will.
Look, this president has personally gained through the meme coins. This president has personally gained through the deal that he forced and intimidated.
Well, do you believe? Okay, but let me ask you then, Congressman. Do you believe that Joe Biden personally gained from what his son was up to in Ukraine, working for energy companies for which he had zero experience? And is now given backdated pardons to all his family to protect any proper, legitimate legal investigations of what they may or may not have been doing with countries like Ukraine and China. When there's a widespread belief, they're all putting money in their pockets.
Well, I'm just here as a member of Congress. You know,
but it seems to me, with respect though, it just seems to me you are so blinded by totality of hatred to Trump and everything to do with him that you can't see the wood for the trees. You can't praise him for anything. And actually, you're not interested in any crimes committed by Democrat presidents.
This is a major problem in current politics, right? Hyper-partisanized politics, right? These people, it's just Trump derangement syndrome all day long. Now, you want to get into the weeds a little bit, talking about Donald Trump has personally gained from blah, blah, blah. Well, let's get into Joe Biden. You want to play that game? We can play that game all freaking day long. Now, we can look at both situations. Joe Biden took a paycheck, didn't he? Donald Trump is not taking a paycheck. As a matter of fact, he has lost a lot of his net worth since he's became president. He had that happen his first presidency. He lost net worth. Look at Elon Musk. They love to say, oh, well, they're just doing this for themselves. They're just greedy, rich billionaires. But hang on. Elon Musk has taken a massive hit. He's been relentlessly, just mercilessly beaten over the head, at least financially. Right? Look at all the protests going after Tesla, for crying out loud. And for what? Oh, because we have some authoritarian regime over here that Elon Musk has absolutely nothing to do with the authoritarianism, according to them. Right? Elon Musk is coming in trying to fix our debt and deficit problems. And these people are trying to bludgeon him over the head outside of government. It makes absolutely no sense. They're going after individual people that own Teslas. Like for the sin of buying a Tesla, for crying out loud, which makes absolutely no sense because they bought their Teslas before Elon Musk got involved with politics at all. It's absolutely ridiculous, these people. They refuse to look at their own party, right? This is something, Tim Pool brings up some really, really good questions there, right? Donald Trump's first term, he did do several commando raids, firing Tomahawk missiles, for crying out loud, all over the dang place, right? We don't like these actions. We don't like interventionism around here. And we hold Donald Trump to account for that. Is it unconstitutional? I think it needs to be investigated, right? If Donald Trump is responsible for that 7-year-old's death, abso-freaking-lutely. But I will not stand for going after Donald Trump when he does some of the same things that Democrats have done for decades, and nobody bats a freaking eyelid over it. It's nonsense. I think we should go after Obama first, considering the evidence of those two cases, Anwar al-Awlaki or whatever, right? You look into that, it's insane. Anwar al-Awlaki was intentionally targeted. That little girl, that was just collateral damage with Trump. It's insane what these people do. Get this, they're going after him because of the tariffs or whatever. Oh, he's taking power away from Congress. He's not. People don't understand that Donald Trump has emergency powers to impose these tariffs because we're currently in a crisis with our economy right now. Joe Biden, they keep saying Joe Biden left us with the greatest economy ever, which is not true. And somehow in 100 days, Donald Trump has destroyed all of it, which is nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. You look at all the metrics. There are metrics out there that make absolutely no sense, folks. Make no sense whatsoever. They love going after Donald Trump for these things, but they don't go after Joe Biden, right? They say, oh, Donald Trump's violating the Constitution, ignoring court orders. But they don't say anything when Joe Biden ignored Supreme Court orders. Just outright, blatantly, several times. Joe Biden was one of the few presidents that tried to sue states for trying to help the federal government. It's insane. It's a double standard. And I love the excuses. Oh, but that's just whataboutism, isn't it? No, it's a double standard. It's a fine line. And sure, there's a little bit of a crossover there between double standard and whataboutism, right? Well, let's all admit that. There is a fine line there, and it kind of bleeds over into each other. It just doesn't make any sense to attack Donald Trump for doing some of the same actions that your own guy did, and you guys were praising Joe Biden for doing these things. Praising him. I happen to think that these universal tariffs, they got paused, sure, but they caused a big uproar. A lot of people are upset over it. But this is one of those things, it's going to take time. I mean, imagine this. This is what Democrats are essentially doing with this whole tariff situation. Let's bring our car to the mechanic because it broke down or whatever. Let's bring our car to the mechanic. You bring your car to the mechanic, say, here it is, it's broke. You go home. As soon as you get home, you're automatically calling the Better Business Bureau because your mechanic hasn't fixed your car yet. I just dropped it off. What is he doing? He's not fixing my car. He's working on other stuff. That's what Democrats are essentially doing. Like they think that we can automatically just fix the economy from decades of abuse. It's utter nonsense, y'all. Give it some time. Is it going to be easy? Nobody said it was going to be easy. Donald Trump even said it's not going to be easy. It's going to be tough. We're going to have to make a few minor sacrifices. This is something that needed to happen. We were being used and abused all over the place. And I love that. There was a comment on one of my videos a while back that really struck me as incredibly misinformed. He said, oh, imagine the biggest economy in the world thinking that they're getting abused. I mean, do you think that just because you're wealthy and you're in a good position, that immunizes you from fraudsters and being tricked and being stolen from? I'm just saying. Let's keep going.
I want to wrap things by asking all of you. I want to ask all of you to give Trump a grade. We can have A to E or an F for fail. Cenk, this is the 100-day grade for the president, Trump.
Yeah. Look, because he's so wildly unconstitutional, I want to give him an F-, but I'm fair. He did close the border, and he is taking a lot of action. I think it's bad action, but at least it's something. So I'll give him a solid D.
A solid D. Batia?
A+, but I really admire Cenk because I see you struggling to be fair, and even though I disagree with you, I admire that. I have to give him an A+. I think this has been, I never expected a president to fulfill this many campaign promises ever, certainly not in 100 days.
Before I ask you, Carrie, just to be clear, you can't go above an A+.
You can't do 2 pluses?
No.
I'm going to give him an A+ because he has followed through on his campaign promises. The people of this country are getting what they voted for, and they're ecstatic about it.
This president has done illegal, unconstitutional activities. He has ruined the economy. People having buyer's remorse about him.
Okay, give me a grade, Congressman.
I would give him an F-.
F-,
for
okay.
The damage that he has created.
No surprises at all with that. None whatsoever. But, let's discuss a little bit further. Hey, interesting fact right quick. That congressman is 70 years old. 70 years old. He looks like he's 55 at best. That's kind of amazing, but he's kind of insane too. He really is. This guy really is nuts. What I said in a video the other day, it kind of surprised me that these people didn't have impeachment on day one. They didn't have this ready to go, that it took 100 days for them to get an impeachment going. That's fascinating, y'all. It really, really is. The sheer amount of campaign promises Donald Trump has already come through on, right? He's putting there's so much litigation right now. It would take me hours and hours to just name all of the lawsuits that are going on right now and everything Donald Trump is doing. He's got hundreds of executive orders trying to overturn certain ideas, certain aspects to how this country is run, blah, 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 you name it. But it's campaign promise after campaign promise after campaign promise has been kept. And can we say the same thing for Democrats and Republicans alike of the past? The answer to that is no. We cannot say the same thing. Most politicians, they make all these promises and they are never kept, ever. Most politicians lie through their freaking teeth on a constant basis. Almost 100% of Americans will tell you that, yes, politicians lie for a living. But then they'll get on the side of their own politicians and say, oh, well, they would be doing a better job, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, come on. You're lying to yourself for partisan gains, if you are trying to make some sort of partisan gains, but you're not going to. Donald Trump is the only politician. And well, I can say he's a politician because he's in his second term. So, after his first term, you still call him a businessman because that's what he's done for the vast majority of his life. And even still, that's still the case. But he's in his second term. He's transitioned to a politician. But he's the only politician that actually pretends or acts like he cares. Let's say that. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt here, or give the people the benefit of the doubt and say he's just pretending. Right? And what's he doing it for? Why is he pretending? People might say, oh, it's because he's egotistic. He's a narcissist. Everything he does is for himself. Right? Losing net worth. He done that for himself? Let's get it straight. That's correct. But Donald Trump wants to be viewed in a positive light. He's not going to intentionally do things to damage his reputation. And it's like he says, he could cure cancer. He could fix the economy. And Democrats would find something to complain about. He could create peace all over the world. He could stop the wars instantly. And Democrats would find something to complain about. It's just the truth. People get on their partisan sides and they play their partisan games and they act really, really partisan. But the people that don't act partisan are at least the people that are willing to speak the truth. That when Donald Trump does something that we don't like, we criticize him for it. Once again, I read a headline earlier. Donald Trump's touting selling weapons to Saudi Arabia. Oh, here we go again. Right? That's something else about his first term I didn't like all that much. Selling weapons. Well, that's one of our manufacturing base. I can't really stop that, but that doesn't mean I have to like it. Especially when Saudi Arabia was committing a genocide, to put it lightly, over in Yemen. It was tragic what's going on. But what can we do about that? How about not selling them weapons when they're actively committing genocide? It's insane, y'all. And, this whole Israel-Gaza thing, that's also insane. I don't think we should be involved with that, except, trying to create peace, trying to stop the fighting, stop the killing. Same thing in Russia. People want to say, oh, Donald Trump's a Putin puppet. And yet, Donald Trump is signing an executive order soon. I read a headline. He's coming up. We're about to impose even more sanctions on Russia. It's insane what goes on. I thought Donald Trump was a Putin puppet. Donald Trump has not been nice to Russia. Donald Trump has been realistic. Democrats don't like that. They don't like that at all. And currently, what Democrats are doing is just blatantly insane. Because Donald Trump is trying to combat the sick individuals over in China. These people are just crooks, in my opinion. Democrats are getting on the side of the Chinese Communist Party, actually repeating Chinese propaganda to the American people. Yeah, they are. As a matter of fact, go look it up. It's insane what's going on right now, and everybody's just hyper-partisanized. If that's even a real word. I make up words, if you haven't already been able to tell. Yeah, I make up a lot of words. I don't make them up as much as I used to, but I still make up words all the time. I wordify stuff, y'all. I do. But I think I've rambled on for long enough on this one. I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comments section. I'd love to hear from you guys, but y'all let me know what y'all think. That's all I got on this one. I want to thank everybody for watching. And once again, like I said, y'all stay tuned to my regular videos. We read the news. We go over the manipulations. I give you the rest of the story, if you will. So y'all check that out. And y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.